Good morning to all our viewers. Today we have with us Mr. Tom Cyriac, a very well-respected, well-known personality from the corporate world. Uh, Mr. Tom is the Vice President and Business Head Auto Finance of the Bhawan International Group Holding LLC Sultanate of Oman at Muscat. The Bhawan International is a diversified group with business interests in various countries in the Middle East and Africa. They are the leading distributors of major automotive brands in the Middle East. Mr. Tom has industry experience of almost 35 years of dealing in media, finance, and automotives. And he's also a distinguished Toastmaster, the Toastmaster being a non-profit organization engaged in supporting individuals in self-development and leadership and communication. Welcome, Tom, if I may call you that. And
Please.
it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I've really been looking forward to having this conversation with you for a long time. So
Thank
we
you,
are here.
Arijit. Thank you for hosting me today, and it's my pleasure.
Right. So, Tom, we start with a little bit on your early life and where you grew up, about your early education, and how you started your career in India before you moved to the Middle East.
I was born in Kottayam district in Kerala, and my early education was, of course, in schools, government schools, LP school till fourth standard, and then till seventh standard, I was actually into Malayalam medium and studying in the government schools. After that, I got a Government of India scholarship for central government scholarship for studying in residential schools.
Right.
Then from seventh standard, I moved to Loyola School Trivandrum, where I was in the boarding school.
Right.
And then I did my 10th standard there, and then +2 I did in school in Patiala called Yadavindra Public School, Patiala.
Right.
So after that, I went on to do my graduation. Then I came back to Kerala for my graduation, which was done in Devamada College, Kuravalangan, which is also in Kottayam district, close to my native place.
Right.
It's my native place, actually.
Right.
And then I went on to do my MBA from Cochin University. And my first job was with a company called Usha Microprocess, which was early part of, they used to deal in small computers those days.
Right.
Then I moved on to tires. Jacket. I was in the sales department of Jacket Tires based out of Cochin. Then media, I started with Rashtradeepika Limited, which is publishers of Deepika newspaper in way back in 1991.
Right.
I started there, and I was there for 5 years till 96. From there, I moved on to finance field, media to finance, actually.
Yeah.
I joined Shriram Investments Limited, again based out of Cochin. Then from there, I went to Tata Finance, where I moved to Chennai, Bangalore, Bombay.
Right.
And in 2006, I came to Muscat, joined the Sohail Bhawan Group, which is a large organization, mostly dealing in automotives. And of course, they have other interests like construction. They are into various activities.
Right.
So here I am handling the auto finance division for the group. So
Right.
which is into financing vehicles for all the brands which they handle.
Right.
So like Nissan, Renault, Infinity, various brands, and across
Right.
3 locations, like we have in Muscat, we have in UAE, and also in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So that is my current position.
Right. So that's wonderful. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is, why did you shift from Kerala to, Patiala for your +2? I mean, that's the first thing that I wanted to ask you.
That is, it is a government scholarship scheme wherein all the expenses are being taken care of by the government of India.
Right.
So the school where I studied in Trivandrum had only up to 10th standard.
Okay.
But the scholarship is up to 12th.
Right. Okay.
So I had applied to 2-3 schools, but I got admission in Yadavindra Public School, Patiala.
Right.
So about 4-5 of us moved there.
Right.
We had a group of 5 people who went from Loyola School to Patiala. That's how
Okay.
we I landed up there.
Right. So how difficult or how easy was the adjustment from South India to down south to North India, up north rather?
I think it was initially for the first couple of months, it was little difficult, getting adjusted to the culture, the way uh, we were living in Trivandrum, and Patiala was definitely different. But
Right.
then being youngsters and students, I don't think we found it very
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
for about 30 days, it was a little bit of a shock to see how things move there. But after
Yeah.
that, it was just blending. And in fact,
Right.
I mean, personally, I really loved the 2 years we spent in Patiala.
That's great because
And we still have some great friends from that place.
I think the friendship is the key to all the
Yes,
adjustment that
yes,
you
yes,
do,
yes.
because if you once you make friends, it becomes so easy to adjust to any place
Absolutely.
in the world.
Absolutely. You're
So
right.
that I think would have been a great experience for you
Yes,
early
yes,
early
yes.
on in life. So when you joined Deepika, that was again a shift in your career from say sort of marketing and working with JK Tires, which is a huge organization,
You're right.
to a media organization. So how different was that? How did you find the media at that point of time in 1991?
See, to me, I was given the opportunity to take care of the circulation department initially when I joined Deepika.
Right.
Definitely, it was very different. And then I had to do a lot of learning to
Okay.
understand what the media is all about. How does it go? So, one of the first things which I learned was I was in JK Tires
Right.
and came to a newspaper. That time we only had two publications. One was three publications. One was the newspaper Morning Daily. Then we
Right.
had a weekly, and then we had one children's monthly. These were the
Okay.
only three publications we had.
Okay.
The first thing I realized was that the Morning Daily is a perishable item like vegetables and fruits.
Right.
After 8 o'clock, it has no demand at that point of time.
Yeah.
We did not have competition so much from like today from television and other medias, though it was
Absolutely.
slowly catching up, it was not so much. So
Yeah.
people looked up to getting the newspaper in the morning. So
Yeah.
the first challenge as heading the circulation was to figure out how to reach the newspaper at the right time to the audience and to the readers.
Right.
So that is one of the things which I found was the most interesting and most challenging part of it.
Okay.
The second part was analyzing and understanding what is it the customer is looking for.
Right.
And though always the news editorial sits and thinks this is what is right because they have that feeling. Editors and newspaper people have the feeling. Reporters think this is the best item what the customers want. But we
Yeah.
used to do a lot of linking and feedback system for the editorial to understand probably what they think is not the right thing for the readers to get.
Right.
Of course, Deepika was for centuries run by the Catholic priests. So it had a image in the marketplace about, like it is meant for Christians or it's a
Right.
Catholic newspaper.
Yeah.
So that was the third challenge was to change the image of the newspaper in the
Right.
minds of the readers. So this was only possible if the editorial team supported.
Yeah.
But luckily for us, after I joined, after some time, one new MD and managing editor joined our organization, Dr. P.K. Abraham,
Right.
and he had the vision and he understood like this is how it is to be done. So
Right.
once that happened, there was a lot of in the marketplace, we were able to place this newspaper and the allied publications much better.
Right.
And of course, since then, in a span of about 4 years, we launched 10 new publications, five
Okay.
editions of Evening Daily,
Right.
and additional two editions of Morning Daily. Probably in
Right.
the history of media in India, if you take or globally, I don't
Yeah.
think any publication or media house has done so much in a span of 4 years.
Right.
Like we used to launch and at least every 3 months we used to have a new launch happen. So
Right.
for me as a marketing head, it was very, very challenging and very interesting.
Right.
Because after Dr. Abraham joined, I was put in charge of both circulation and also advertisement, like space marketing also.
Yeah.
So
Right.
like the whole gamut of bringing revenue became my responsibility. So that
Okay.
was very challenging and very interesting, I would say.
And I
If you
believe
ask me that,
your circulation skyrocketed during that time.
yes, definitely. Not only for Morning Daily, see, we opened two new editions of Morning Daily. We revamped the existing two editions. We only had two editions, one from Kottayam, one from Trichur.
Right.
Then Kannur edition was opened. Then we opened Kochi edition, all in a span of about 2.5 to 3 years' time. So
Right.
naturally, there was a huge increase in the number of
Readers.
the print. The circulation definitely went up.
Okay.
But even those days, getting higher circulation was definitely not leading to revenue because every copy was actually adding to your losses. The newsprint
Okay.
was so costly. So
Yeah.
then we had to find advertisement revenue to substantiate the growth or
Right.
substantiate the new numbers being added.
Yeah.
So that was
Right.
the biggest challenge. But luckily for us, the advertisement revenue proportionately or it multiplied also during that period.
Right.
It was also supported by other publications we added, like we added the Evening Daily,
Right.
which was a cash puller because we used to sell it not on credit. It was being sold on cash and carry basis.
Okay.
So though it was low priced, it had a very good advantage of getting cash flow.
Right.
It also helped in generating more ad revenue. So
Yeah.
adding these new publications definitely helped the organization to generate more income.
Right.
That was very helpful. So, but my challenge was like had to build up an organization because we did not have a network of people. At the same time, had to have strategies for increasing circulation and more for generating revenue
Right.
because through advertisement.
Yeah.
All this, but it was a very good team effort. We had a wonderful team which was built up in that period,
Right.
and we established a network across India. Even we established in the Middle East. We opened up an office in Dubai. We
Okay.
had people placed in all the Middle East locations. We also had so many activities running that people really thought like this is a media house to look at. We used
Right.
to organize programs in Bombay, Delhi for ad agencies, PRO or public relation activities, and it all really helped.
Yeah. Right.
And we were able to generate, proportionate advertisement revenue also during that period.
Yeah. So basically, the circulation also leads to the to more advertisements, I would say,
Absolutely, it
because
goes hand in hand.
absolutely, because the
Yeah.
moment more people look at your paper, there'll be more companies willing
Yes.
to
Yes.
invest
Yes.
in
Yes.
advertisements. So
Yes. Yes.
that was a great approach. But
Yeah.
what I also wanted to ask you about was because you were so closely associated with that newspapers, that group of newspapers at that point of time. You mentioned that there was not so much of TV and maybe even radio at that point of time. And people basically relied on the newspaper, the print newspaper, the one
Yes.
that they got in the morning or maybe read in the evening or whatever,
Yes.
for their information of what was happening in the world.
Yes.
Now, the stories that you carried, was there a shift from the ones that were carried earlier to the ones that you subsequently carried during your time to sort of
Definitely.
build up the circulation and the interest in the newspaper?
Definitely. I told you that one new managing director,
Right,
managing editor, Dr. Abraham joined.
right,
He was a visionary
right,
and he changed the face of the newspaper,
right.
the media house itself, because
Mm,
the evening daily which we started, which was called Rashtradeepika,
yeah,
which really was had total shift in the editorial content from the morning daily which we used to publish.
right,
The morning daily was very conservative. We were definitely not aggressive. a very reliable newspaper, but at the same time, not at all looking at how to promote the numbers.
Right.
Whereas in the evening daily, we carried stories. We sometimes used to carry sensation, and it
Right.
used to come out in the afternoon. The publishing time was 2 to 2:30. It used to
Right.
come out.
Right.
So, and we were the first evening daily from an organized sector. We started printing from 5 locations in a very short span of time, and people used to look up to seeing this afternoon daily. Let's
Right.
call it that way. It was more like the midday in Bombay.
Yeah. Right.
So it was very much akin, I mean, very similar to that.
Yeah.
So that had a huge shift. And when this came, automatically it also pulled the image of the morning daily.
Right.
So this
Yeah.
is a new thing. So Deepika is now different. So
Yeah.
this caught on. And we also published, I told you, 10 different publications came out. One in
Right.
the, we had something in the agriculture sector called Karshakan. Then for ladies, we had Stri Dinam. Then we had for business, something called Business Deepika, Career Deepika. So in film, like Deepika, Rashtra Deepika Cinema.
Yeah.
So when these other publications came up also, overall, there was a huge shift in the image.
Right.
So it helped the change in the image of the morning daily also.
Yeah. Right.
Of course, we also became more, balanced in terms of our editorial content.
Right.
So the editorial team was also pulled along for all our activities, for them to know like what is the mindset of the readers.
Right. Yeah.
It
That's
definitely
important.
helped.
Absolutely.
And those days, as you mentioned, the influencer was the print media.
Yes.
Definitely
Absolutely.
not TV or
Absolutely.
social media like what we see
There's
today.
this feeling amongst the average Indian reader that if you read something in a newspaper,
Yes,
it is correct and it is the
correct,
truth.
correct.
So
It is there.
you may write
Ye-
anything you want, but
Yeah,
for the average Indian reader, if he's read it in a newspaper, that is the truth.
correct.
How big is that as a sort of responsibility on the people who write in newspapers
Yes.
when they consider the impact of what they're writing on the average Indian population. So
No,
what kind
I
of
think from
ethics
a,
what kind of
sorry.
ethics do you think are actually related with that putting your stories to the average Indian reader?
I think if you ask me, more than 80% of the media, at least those days, I used to
Right,
consider that 80% of the print media, they were very, very reliable and they
right,
were responsible.
right,
And, there was also a check through the Indian Newspaper Society, and they were responsible for that. They could get pulled up also.
right,
So, in that sense, there was a censorship, I would say, for the media, which is print media.
right,
Today, that is not applicable to any of the media other than print media. I think newspapers still carry that censorship with them. They are
right,
answerable to what they publish. If you see,
right,
there is in those days, it was the printer and publisher who was responsible for all that used to come. In fact, it was in that when I was there, I think it changed to the editor,
right,
like the writing below changed from the responsible person for whatever is in this is the news editor came after
right,
during that period, if I remember correctly.
right,
Earlier the printer and publisher was responsible for everything. There were a lot of
right.
cases filed against them.
Yeah,
So subsequently it became the news editor's responsibility.
right. Yeah,
So definitely newspaper is, even today I feel, is more reliable in terms of facts and figures than any other media.
right.
Even television or social media definitely is the least of reliable in
Absolutely.
that sense.
Absolutely.
So on a comparative scale, I think even today print media is the most responsible,
Right.
yeah,
So,
and most reliable.
so what has changed over the years now that you see the kind of journalism that we have, overall TV, there's so much of sensationalism that happens on TV.
Yes.
Has that also started affecting the print media, or is the print media still, largely what it was in the 90s when you were working with them?
No, I think print media is taught, and they are finding it very difficult to compete with the current
Right,
the advanced technological, the internet based media, what I call today. Because
right.
today the media is internet based mostly.
Absolutely,
For
absolutely,
example, what happens anywhere in the globe, I'll get it in the next second, which was not possible in the 90s.
absolutely,
We had to wait,
absolutely.
somebody in the newspaper will come to know, then slowly it used to, then it comes to the television.
Right.
And then even when it comes to the television, it was only a news. It was like a 2 minute
Broadcast.
news,
Yeah.
what was read on the TV, what was visible to us.
Right.
But today, the whole story comes to us in a matter of seconds.
Absolutely.
Those days, we used to wait for the newspaper, even if you have seen a news in the television, we used to wait for the newspaper to read the news and understand what the whole thing is all about.
Absolutely.
Today, I don't think anybody waits for the newspaper for the news.
Yeah.
We
Right.
still subscribe to a newspaper, probably it is because of a habit. I'm
Yeah.
sure the new generation going forward will only
Right.
have their tablet or
Absolutely.
their
Absolutely.
mobile in hand, which is
Yeah.
going to give them the required news items,
Absolutely.
and what is of interest they will read.
Right.
Now at times I think we used to read mostly from first front page to the last page,
Yes. Absolutely.
or in probably when I was younger I used to read from last page to the front page because last page was sports.
Right.
I'm sure you'll agree to that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we
there's
used to
there's
see
a
that
there's
title in the front page and then go to
yeah.
the back page.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
if you
there's
ask
a
me a sequence, I still recollect. So you'll see the front page, what is the main news, then go to the back page, then come to the third page.
yeah.
After that,
Absolutely.
only we used to read anything else
Absolutely.
because
So there
third
is
page was mostly the local
local news.
news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a saying
It-
that the sports page is a record of man's achievements and the front page is a record of his failures.
yeah,
So it's always better to start reading from the sports page, which gives you a
probably.
better feeling actually, rather than the front page, which is usually very
I think it's
depressing.
more of our interest, is what
Absolutely,
I feel.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So now, yeah, as you said, the journalism now has become more of internet-based articles which people
correct.
read on their tablets or laptops or mobiles mainly, I think, nowadays.
Yeah.
And that has, I think, changed the overall picture of journalism as well. You know, for one thing, the reach of the article that you're writing. Earlier,
Yes.
anyone who picked up that print magazine or the print newspaper, only he
Yes.
would be able to read it. He or she would be able to read it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Today, you have once it is a soft copy of an article placed on the social media, not social media, on the news channels. Uh,
Yes.
anyone, anywhere in the world can see it at any point of time. So
That's right.
how do you think that has affected the quality of journalism? Does that does it change the way people used to write or the way used to report their news, or is it the same?
I think, see, to some extent, if you ask me, the way the journalists have taken up to news has changed quite a bit in the past couple of decades. So I would refer back to our Arnab Ghosh, who is a very well-known journalist in Indian media and
Right,
globally also is very well known.
right,
Now he is one person who has actually changed the way reporting happens in the television channels or in the media. Let us put it that way.
right,
He is capable of sensationalizing or giving it a different flavor for any news, which was
right,
not earlier there.
right,
So it is, and maybe because we like sensation as a human beings, we like sensationalism. People have caught on to it.
right,
So because of that, and it has definitely resulted in generating more viewers and in turn generating more revenue for
right.
the respective channels.
Absolutely.
So naturally, for any media house which is running a television channel or for that matter, getting into any type of media, generating revenue is one of the prime objectives,
Absolutely.
or it becomes a necessary objective at some point of time.
Right.
For this reason, everybody has shifted the way they also do the reporting. If you see any TV channel, whether it is in any regional language like Malayalam, Kannada, Hindi, any channel, they have also changed a lot. I'm not
Right.
saying all the media houses, but I think 90% of the media houses have shifted to a sensationalized version of the same
News.
news,
Yeah.
which was not there earlier.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
is one shift which has happened.
Right.
Now, coming to how it has changed to the social media, now anybody can be a journalist, anybody can be a publishing house, anybody can become a channel.
Yeah.
So, and there is no control.
Right.
So, people do sensationalize to make sure that it gets a reach. Then they are able to generate some kind of revenue. It has
Yeah.
become a way of life.
Yeah.
So, I think money making has caught on to media in a big way, which was
Right.
not there earlier.
Right.
Money making in the right way was the norm, but today money making anyway has become the norm with any type of reporting, news, I mean, any type of media for that matter. I think that is
Absolutely.
a big shift which has happened.
Absolutely.
And irresponsible journalism has taken over the responsible journalism,
Right.
especially in news reporting. I would say
Right.
that. I don't want to name, but I know that there are some channels which specializes, and every day they'll come out with a very sensational, uh,
Absolutely.
what we used to call it now at times the yellow journalism kind of thing. That I
Right.
think has taken over the definitely the normal journalism,
Right.
because as you said, today if I generate something which is sensational, it will get shared, and overnight it becomes a million viewers.
Absolutely.
That's what everybody is looking forward to. They are not looking at
Absolutely.
responsible journalism at all.
Absolutely.
So I think that there's a huge shift. There is a large number of people who are actually into responsible journalism, but
Right.
I think they are in the crowd. They are losing their way. They are
Right.
finding it difficult to sustain
Right.
and survive, which
Right.
probably was not the case maybe 10 to 15 years back. Is
Right.
what I feel.
So basically, you're saying that yellow journalism is overtaking the responsible journalism in today's context,
Absolutely,
and that's quite worrying. Also, there's a
absolutely.
parallel industry running on fake news now. Again, that's related with sensationalizing things and uh, creating a sort of sensation amongst people by just
Yeah.
writing anything which is not even true. So,
I
how do
will
you?
include that also part of yellow journalism. See,
Right?
anything
Yeah.
which is not right, which is not
Correct.
reliable, I would
Absolutely.
call it yellow journalism.
Absolutely.
So I think all of this, and they are just doing it because they feel there'll be some viewership which will happen, and in turn they will generate some income or fame, whatever it is.
Exactly. Exactly. And again, like I said, people once they read it somewhere, the average Indian still probably has that feeling that if he's either seen it on TV or he's read it in a magazine or a newspaper, or on now in the current
Social media.
context, if you
Yeah.
read it on social media or in a article on the internet, it is right. So that is a very worrying thing because if there's a, as I said, there's a proper parallel industry which is now pushing fake news. What do you what do you think about that? I mean, how does it affect the mindset of people basically, and how damaging is it to the national interest?
Definitely. I mean, it is very worrisome, and it definitely impacts the sizable population. Today, all of us, if you take any person who is below 30, I'm sure they are totally dependent on social media for their news. Like,
Right.
for example, my daughter and son, they don't read any newspaper per se.
Yeah.
They listen to podcasts, they listen to news item which get pushed to them through some channel.
Absolutely.
If they are more responsible, they actually select and read what they want to read. For example, my son subscribes to one or two channels and he says, I don't rely on anything else but these two channels, for the reason none of them are, none of the other channels give the correct news. And
Yeah.
this is the feel of a youngster.
Right.
Now, maybe he is more responsible, but I'm sure 90% of the rest of the crowd will go with what they come to them.
Yeah.
In fact, we also tend to read like something which comes from a group. We tend to read, then you'll take the link,
Yeah.
then that link will keep repeating back to you again and again. And
Right.
sometimes we get caught in that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think it's fun, but end of the day, as you said, somewhere in the back of our mind, it remains as a news item with us.
Absolutely.
Maybe it is fake, maybe it is not correct. Many a
Yeah.
times we may not have the time or the inclination to go and find out whether this is correct or not correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And any fake news, if you have noticed, whatever comes out, always there is one set of population who latches onto it and say this is correct and start
Yes.
fighting for it
Absolutely.
as if it's the truth. So which
Absolutely.
is not correct, because
Yeah.
this is a huge shift. Because in I still remember in the 90s in the journalistic media, if there's a fake news or a news which was not correct which used to come, there was definitely a censorship around that, and we used to get pulled up,
Right.
which is not happening today.
Right.
I think this is somewhere the governments have to take and take it into hand and try to curtail this, otherwise it's going to affect the society in a big way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how do you see the way forward for media in the sense that, you've seen it from the 90s and you're seeing it, the shape that it has taken now? What do you think would be the right way forward? How do you, that small minority of responsible journalists that you spoke about, how do you think we can stop them from getting lost in the crowd? How do we sort of bring back responsible journalism, which actually sort of builds up young people, especially in the society, rather than falling prey to these kind of yellow journalism?
See, to me, if you ask, we cannot avoid technology advancement, which
Absolutely.
means the way used to get reported has changed, and we cannot go back to the earlier times. Like if you expect that morning newspaper will come and
Yeah.
that's the only way, it's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
technology is definitely going to be there. Now, how do we get responsible journalism to the forefront of what is being dished out to the readers
Right.
or the viewers?
Right.
This is the factor.
Yeah.
It can only happen. It's like, I think irresponsible journalism is as good as committing a crime,
Absolutely.
because it leads to, it's more than a crime because it leads to a sizable population being infected with this
Right.
news.
Right.
It is like today we control drugs. There's a huge setup which has been created to control drugs in any country for that matter, globally also. So I think irresponsible journalism and fake news is as bad as drugs in the
Right.
marketplace.
Right.
So
Right.
the government need to take cognizance to the situation and act on it.
Right.
So because this can influence and it can turn our society into a very, very irresponsible place for that matter.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
in that context, I think unless the government acts on it with a purpose,
Right.
and the same way they take to drugs and other negative influences in the society. See, we curtail cigarette smoking because
Yeah.
it is injurious to health.
Right.
Government said no more advertisements on cigarette smoking,
Right.
and drugs are banned. If you are seen to be carrying drugs, you are punished. I think the same way the government should take look at fake news and negative journalism, or in that sense, then only this can get curtailed, and then they should promote responsible journalism.
Right. Right.
So if that doesn't happen, society is like, it just takes what it comes to them.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
cannot exactly blame the society
Yeah.
for that.
Right.
So actually the government should take this as a thing which is going to negatively impact the society in the
Right.
long run, and act on it, is what my opinion on this.
Right. Absolutely. So you saying that drugs and irresponsible journalism are on the more or less on the same platform because
Absolutely.
they actually
Influ-
affect
yeah.
people so negatively. That's a
Yes.
that's a great point actually. And coming to promoting positive journalism, how important do you think these internet-based TV channels like Global TV, for example, uh, what kind of role can they play in sort of creating a better, journalistic atmosphere, and also sort of encouraging young people, giving them the right kind of inputs? What are your thoughts on that?
See, I would look at global TV as an example of promoting responsible journalism, promoting positive journalism, promoting positivity in the society.
Right,
And I think more such channels should come forward. And if the society or people who really care for the society should support this kind of endeavors, is what I have to say on this. For
right,
example, when Mr. Paulos, chairman of Global TV, approached me saying that why don't we do something together, and
right,
we've started something called leadership series
right,
in Global TV, wherein I am actually anchoring a discussion with leaders in
right,
various industries,
right,
in from the civil service, from education, from business,
right,
and focusing on their leadership skills, how they came out as a leader.
right,
So that is promoting, responsible journalism, so which can be used
right,
or looked up to by the youth.
right.
See, I think I personally feel the biggest challenge today's world is facing is responsible leadership.
Absolutely.
Leadership, the right type of leadership in any society is what changes or gives the great outlook for the society. If
Right,
it's an irresponsible leadership, the country can go to dogs, the society will go to dogs, and things will not work out in the same way,
right,
or
absolutely.
what is expected of a responsible society.
Right,
So nurturing the right leadership we thought was a good thing to do, or
right,
at least from a journalistic point of view, can
right,
we promote? That is what thoughts came. So I
absolutely.
think promoting such channels like Global TV, or people who really give positive journalism
Yes,
and give them avenues, give them opportunities, and get them give an opportunity for them to go across to the, especially the youth,
right,
like campuses, call, I mean, wherever it is possible to influence the youth. If we do it, that's the best thing we can do.
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Tom, coming back to that leadership point that you made just now, from your own perspective, from your own example of, you've done so well in life, what would you say is the key to that, success that you enjoyed personally? What would you, if you were to give a message to the youth of today who are watching this program, what would you say that would set them apart from the thousands of others who do not achieve that kind of success? If you want to become successful, what are the key points that you would emphasize to a person who's trying to make his forward and way forward in life?
I'll put it in a different perspective.
Right.
Couple of days back, we had a session on Zoom with my classmates.
Okay.
In fact, it was my birthday, three
Right.
days back, 2 days back, so
Right. Okay.
27th, yeah. So they all came on board on the previous night, and we usually have a session because I just turned 60.
Right. Okay.
So 60th birthday is being celebrated, and then I got feedbacks which probably I didn't know existed. Some of the characteristics which I came to know that day.
Right.
It's quite interesting. So
Right.
one of the things uh, which is true and which is a fact is we always have a positive outlook, whatever may be the situation.
Absolutely.
So I have been very lucky in the sense I had the best of possible education at an early age. When I got this Government of India scholarship, could study
Right.
in the best of schools in the country, and subsequently also I had a reasonably good education, which was possible only because I had the support of the society and the government. I would say
Right.
that because I do
Right.
not come from a influential or economically upward background,
Right.
but that was very helpful. But what really helped me was the positive outlook. In the
Right.
sense, see, nobody's life is static. Nobody's life goes in a straight line up. It goes in,
Absolutely.
ups and downs.
Right.
So when the downs come, having that attitude that yes, I can still come back to it is something which I thought was very helpful for me personally.
Right.
Second thing is nothing substitutes hard work.
Right.
So especially when your chips are down and when you think that the world is you are at a loss, and especially if you take leadership positions, your
Right.
challenges are much more. You face
Right.
a problem or a crisis every other day, which I'm sure you would have experienced in your life, in your journey, in your
Absolutely.
career. So
Absolutely.
that time, showing to your team that nothing has happened, just that we have to come out of the current situation, go forward. I
Right.
think that is the second thing which has really helped me in coming up.
Right.
So I think my message to the youngsters, definitely have a very positive outlook, believe in yourself,
Right.
and when crises or problems strike you, think that it is only for the moment, and definitely you have the skill set to come out
Absolutely.
of it and thrive.
Absolutely.
And this is what, and be cool about whatever you do, because if you show a positive image outside, naturally your team will follow you with that.
Right.
So I think that's the message I have to give.
Yeah, that's a great message actually, of being positive irrespective of
Yeah,
whatever kind of situation you find yourself in.
yeah,
And obviously, as you said, you always have these ups and downs in life, and
absolutely.
if you can handle the rough with the smooth, I think that's the key to success in life. And
Yeah.
so, one last question before we go, Tom. How do you look at nurturing youngsters, nurturing the people who work with you, who are you're obviously in a very senior position now. Somebody who's just joined you, somebody who's trying to make his way in life professionally. Again, what are the things that you would look at, to sort of make form an opinion about a person quickly, whether he will be able to live up to the responsibilities that you thrust upon him, or whether you would need to sort of guide him every step of the way, because you can always put people in different boxes by looking at them and the way they interact and the way they conduct themselves. What are your thoughts on that? People who joined your organization at the young level, people who want to make their way forward, rise up the ladder. What would be your advice to such people? When it comes to advice from the top, somebody looking down on from the top, to see that they actually, make the right moves so that they move up in life.
See,
What
one
would
of the
be?
things which I keep advising all my team members at the recruitment stage
Yeah.
is recruit people with the right attitude.
Right.
When you say the right attitude is one of the key factors, what I feel today required is adaptability.
Right.
And the way the environment around us is changing now is so fast.
Yeah.
Adaptability is one of the key uh, things which is required for any person to work in any environment.
Right.
Now, if you do not have the right attitude, it's very difficult to adapt to the changing situations.
Right.
So, this is one of the key elements we look at when we recruit a person.
Right.
Now, if you have the right attitude, whatever is the situation, this person can be mentored and molded
Right.
and to take up challenges what is in front of him. It can be the job today, what you have to do, like maybe you are handling customers, you have to take care of the customers. But having the right attitude is the most important requirement, or
Right.
the characteristics what is required for any youngster who joined the organization.
Right.
So the first thing I do is to assess whether he or she has the right attitude.
Right.
If he or she has the right attitude, usually what we do is to put them across to a mentor, one
Right.
person whom they feel comfortable to look up to.
Right.
So one within the organization. So once you have a mentor, then depending on how their interaction and how comfortable they are, they will be able to take them forward.
Right.
So one of the things which I do from a head point of view is to look at what's happening with people, whether they have the right mentors, whether they are growing in the right way.
Yeah.
And some people who do not find comfortable definitely will find other avenues to go forward.
Right.
But as much as possible, we take care of the attitude part of it at the recruitment stage so that we don't lose them in between, because that
Right.
has a cost to the organization also.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
once you have the right attitude, I think it's not about the skill set for doing a job. It's more
Right.
about the attitude to approach to the job, which is more critical to us, or that's
Right.
what I feel. So
Right.
once that is there, we can mold any youngsters.
Right.
So one of the things which, you see, I am working very closely with this organization called Toastmasters, which
Right.
is into leadership and communication skill development.
Right.
It's a self-training program. If you are interested, you can join. So
Yeah.
I advise all these youngsters. Our organization has a Toastmasters club. So I
Right.
advise all of them join Toastmasters club. At least be there for 2 to 3 years, because it's a continuous learning process.
Right.
So there you get both along the way. It's not a training where there are 10 modules, you do it. No, you keep doing things along with the team, so you learn
Right.
either in communication or in leadership. For
Right.
both, you get a feedback
Right.
from a mentor within
Right.
the club itself. So it
Right.
really helps people to grow.
Right.
So these are the two things which we continue to do, and it really helps.
Right.
It helps to also retain talent, because my experience is people who have worked with our team has been there for, and usually the attrition rate is very low. Not
Right.
because we pay, or not because we have a higher salaries or anything like it. It is because there is good mentoring, there is good
Right.
approach to, and create a healthy environment to work,
Yeah. Right.
and which will also help the youngsters to grow in the organization.
Absolutely. So what you're saying is that it's not so much in terms of retaining people and sort of nurturing them into the kind of professionals that they should become. It's not so much the salaries which are important, and maybe even the background that they come from, the colleges or the education that they've had. Even that maybe can sort of be neutralized if they've not come from a very good college or a very good educational background initially. Once they join the organization, once they pick up the ethos of the company and the work ethos and all that, and they feel part of a team, I think that is what is the thing that you are saying.
Yes.
Retain helps them to retain, helps the organization to retain such people. And that's a great thought again for companies as well, because it's more about making people feel good, making people feel a part of a team, making people feel valued, making people feel that they're learning something by being in the organization. And as you said, Toastmasters is a wonderful example of that. So,
Yes.
one last question. Absolutely, I know you're running out of time. Uh, you said you started reading your newspapers from the sports page. So obviously you are interested in sports, and how important do you think sports plays in the life of a person who comes to work in a company, in terms of teaching him team spirit and working with people and all of that? Just that one last question,
In
please.
fact, whenever I interview a person,
Right.
especially at the lower level or the middle management level, one of the questions which I have is, what are the extracurricular activities you have participated during your college days or school days?
Right.
So I definitely judge their team spirit or the way they have approached life based on whether they have participated. It can be sports, it can be any kind of team events, like can even be a drama, it can be a music program, whatever it is. If
Absolutely.
they have the skill set to get out of their regular routine and do something different, I
Right.
think they have leadership skills.
Absolutely.
And I also asked this question: have you been a part of any event or activity which during their college days or school days? So I think sports is a great place where they learn team spirit, where they learn to take failure,
Yes.
where they
Absolutely.
learn how to accept defeat and then come up in life. I mean, in
Absolutely.
their any activity which they do. So that is
Absolutely.
a great learning which they have if you participate in sports or any other activity
Absolutely.
related in your school, college, or even after college. I've seen some people may not take to it during college, but later we find they take to such activities. Definitely, I feel any individual, especially the youth, or even at any stage in life, should have, other than their work life, they should have something else which keep them engaged, which
Right.
you can definitely, it throws away your frustrations, it throws away your other difficulties, your what challenges you face, but it
Right.
helps you off, and it really helps to build yourself as a person and as well
Right.
as in as a team
Right. Right.
member.
So absolutely. So basically, a well-rounded personality which can accept defeat as well as success with
Yes.
equal sort of grace. I think that would be the thing to aspire to for youngsters. Thank you so much, Tom, for speaking to me, and it's been really wonderful having you on the show and listening to your views on various things. And I'm sure with people like you supporting youngsters, giving them the kind of inputs that you would on their way forward, on their journey forward, I think that's a great sort of nurturing process. Thank you so much, Tom. It's been a pleasure
Thank you,
talking to you.
Arjit, for having me here in the show. It was nice, and it was very, very nice talking to you, actually.
Same
Thank
here.
you so much, and
Absolutely.
wish you all the best.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.